Hey y'all, Braiden here with Tactical Cowboy. Today we want to do a little review of my rifle that I've been shooting for a few years now. It's gone through a few different phases, just starting off from a stock Springfield Saint rifle, and went and did some upgrades to it along the way as I saw fit. We'll start from the back here, back at the stock. So I got a nice little Magpul stock right here, super nice that I can just clamp it in, make sure it's locked in real tight. So that was my first upgrade that I went and did on this thing. It's super solid, and I like that, say I'm in the kneeling or the prone, something where I really want to lock in my position and be able to shoot quickly. I think that helps me feel a little bit more comfortable for it. Not that it's completely necessary. You could do it with a bare bones stock, but I've had good success with this and I like it a lot. So going up from there, ended up upgrading the buffer system in this to a Geisley H2 buffer system. Really enjoy that. It's drastically improved the felt recoil, I would say, in this. So it's not quite as sharp. So that is a huge upgrade that I highly recommend for anyone that is noticing very, very sharp recoil impulse. That can help out a little bit there. Next, I went and upgraded the trigger to a Geisley SSAE trigger, or actually, sorry, SDE trigger, so the flat one, and it has been awesome. So going from the stock, the single stage trigger, it has been a huge upgrade where I have been able to be a lot more precise. So if anyone's looking for an upgrade there in the trigger system, highly recommend the Geisley. Devin's running the same thing. From there, went and upgraded the bolt to a Sharps Rifle Company bolt. I've heard people say this is really harsh on the gun, but I shot thousands and thousands of rounds through this bolt right here, and it's been great. So that's what I went and did there. The barrel is stock, but from there went ahead and added a Geisley handguard. The reason why I added the Geisley handguard to this and didn't just keep the stock one is these are known to be very accurate for holding zero if you have an IR laser or a laser of some sort where you're going to be aiming with it, right? So laser aiming devices are going to be solid, but it's only going to be as solid as your handguard's going to be. So went ahead, upgraded that, and I've noticed it's held recoil throughout the year, or sorry, held zero throughout the years, and that's been great. So going from there, I have a little Magpul foregrip right here. This is great as a little bit of a handguard, and being able to get these lower fingers on here, notice that. I can pull it back into my shoulder, and that's gonna minimize some of the travel of the recoil of the gun, right? So if my gun is all the way out here and it's not pulled into my shoulder, check this out. As the recoil hits, I'm gonna have a bunch of that recoil coming back into my shoulder. All this space and play that I give the gun, it's going to try and take advantage of, right? So what I do is I will use this foregrip right here and I will pull it back into my shoulder pocket, and that minimizes the travel of the gun. So that is a nice little upgrade that I did, and notice I actually cut it to my hand size, so I don't need the whole long thing sticking out. And I've actually ran into problems where if you have that longer foregrip, it can get caught on things and it can be inconvenient that way. And then also it can be nice for if you need to use some sort of barrier, you can slide it into the L shape of the barrier and stuff like that, right? So another little upgrade that I did. Next, moving to the tip of the gun, went with a Surefire muzzle device here. I'm actually going to be upgrading to a Huxworks muzzle device and suppressor. So that's a future upgrade that you guys will see here in the future. From there, we'll go on to the actual optic. So going back a little bit, we got the GBRS, the Lerna mount right here. This is great. Since I've been using this, I switched over from the Unity one, and I have noticed that it is much easier to get behind the optic this way when you're using the Lerna mount as opposed to the Unity, just because it's a little bit higher up and it's going to be much easier behind nods, and then also just getting a nice position where I don't have to be scrunched down on the rifle to get behind it. So that has been great. The next thing is going to be the EOTech, the EXPS 3-0. And this thing, it's just solid. It just works, right? Anything that we need it for, from passive aiming to fast shooting or long distance, it holds zero. It's reliable, and I have had no issues with this whatsoever. It's just worked, and it's been awesome, guys. So highly recommend if anyone's looking into a red dot, just spend the money and get the EOTech. We're not sponsored by them or anything. It's just a solid bulletproof optic, so highly recommend the EOTechs there. Going up, I have a B.E. Myers Mall for the laser aiming device. So this thing has been awesome for a couple different reasons. A, I can get my full grip. I don't have to worry about having a super high optic or having any extra pressure switches. It's just right there, right? And the IR light illuminator on this is going to be epic. If you guys are willing to spend that coin and then go the $3,000 that this thing costs and then go this route, it's going to be solid for you guys. If you guys have night vision, highly recommend the B.E. Myers Mall. Next, I got a Unity pressure switch attached to this Surefire Vampire light, which is great for CQB and then also just any sort of low light scenario that you need to do. Just put this thing on, and highly recommend everyone has a light. If you don't have a light, you're not going to be able to shoot what you can't see, and we highly recommend that you're not just shooting at stuff that you cannot positively identify if it's a threat, right? Or maybe you're even just shooting at night, you can't identify, say, hunting, you can't identify what varmint you're shooting or whatever it may be. Highly recommend this light here. You can get some different benefits. Surefire lights are just going to be the way to go, right? So if you have this type of light right here, you're going to have the IR capability, that hence the vampires. You're going to have that IR capability as well as that white light capability. So Surefire, or I know a lot of other people that'll use Streamlight. Streamlight's also going to be an excellent option if budget is on your mind. So if you don't mind spending the extra coin, highly recommend the Surefire lights. If you want to be a little bit more budget friendly, then I recommend that Streamlight. But those are some of the upgrades that I got on this thing. And lastly, I'll just talk about the sling. Having a quality 2-point sling is going to be huge. So this is QD. I can quickly detach this, spin it around as I need. The GBRS sling has been awesome for Devin and I. We've been using it. We've been loving it. I used to use a Vickers sling and a bunch of other slings, but this one is just thin. It's minimalistic. I really enjoy this thing, but there's a little bit about my rifle. Oh, one last thing that I want to talk about is these witness marks. I got them all over this thing, as you can tell. Highly recommend this. I see people come to our classes all the time that they have optics where they tighten the screws and they maybe didn't tighten it down to torque or whatever it may be, but their optics come loose during our classes. That's the last thing you want, is your optic to come loose during a class, or maybe even your life depends on it. We don't want that to happen, so a witness mark can be a quick, simple way to be able to look over and be like, oh, sweet, none of my screws have moved, right? You always want to know if this thing's coming loose, so always check your gear, always know the status of your weapon in general. Right here. So on my actual optic itself, if you come in here, you'll notice I got two different marks. I got my red marks, which is my traditional zero, the ammo that I zeroed with, and I actually have black marks right here where it says down X-Tac. So when I'm switching from PMC X-Tac to PMC Bronze, I got the adjustment right there. I can quickly switch it back and forth, and it's going to hold zero because EOTech is a solid optic. I've taken this thing off, I've ripped it off, thrown it on other platforms, and thrown it back on, and it's held zero. So highly recommend a nice, reliable optic that you can be able to do something like this, know your holds with different ammo. Going to be extremely useful. If you don't know how to use this thing, at the end of the day, no matter how good a gear you get, you're going to suck. And that's just the way that it is. So get out, train, go out, and then build a solid community of people, good morals, values, and yeah, that's all I got for you guys. Have a good one.